I'm Aisha Chabane.
I'm Zahra Muzaffar.
And welcome to Owlcast,
where we get to know your fellow foothill community. Today we're here with Jeffrey and Max of the Santaland Diaries. So before getting started, you guys want to take some time to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Jeffrey Lowe. I was the director of the Santa Land Diaries.
And I'm Max Tachis. I play Crumpet the Elf in the Santa Land Diaries.
Can you guys tell us a little bit about why it was chosen?
Yeah, sure. The company TheaterWorks Silicon Valley, which I work for, they're sort of the folks who end up choosing the show, the folks on the artistic staff. The Santa Land Diaries was, on many levels, a bit of a new project or an experiment of sorts for TheaterWorks on a number of levels. One, this is our first show that we've ever done at the Loman. Right. So usually what has happened, at least in my time at TheaterWorks, which has been almost 8 years now, our season consists of 5 shows at the Mountain View Center for the Performing Arts and 3 shows at the Lucy Stern Theater in Palo Alto. And we wanted to look at expanding in a couple of ways. One being focusing a little bit on the Los Altos Hills community and seeing how we could stretch that. A few years ago, the San Jose Repertory Theater, unfortunately, closed their doors, so we were looking at how we could continue to serve the peninsula and expand who we were serving. And also with sort of this sarcastic, wry David Sedaris humor, we were looking at seeing how we could tap into audiences a little younger than who we usually get. But yeah, it's just a funny play. It's a funny play. But really, I was getting a little technical, but in the end, it's just a really funny holiday play that's like, the holidays are a little crazy, so let's make fun of it.
I like that. That's cool.
Okay. So to my knowledge, this is your first time directing?
At TheaterWorks,
At
yeah.
TheaterWorks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then can you tell us a little bit about the director side of this experience?
Sure, yeah. How funny would that be? It's like, you haven't directed a show before, here to the car. Yeah, no, it's interesting. This is my second time directing a one-man show, which is a whole different ballgame. But the other time was also a one-man holiday show. So that seems to be a bit of a...
You got a good niche going.
Yeah, you got a bit of a niche going, where it's like, we can only talk about the holidays with one dude. But yeah, the director side of things, it's I could talk a little bit about it generally, but then with this experience, it's a lot of figuring out how to keep a consistent vision going. I try to be as collaborative as possible, because I'm going to be working with scenic designers, costume designers, sound designers, projections designers, lighting designer, and actors, of course, and all of those artists are better at their specific art than I am, because that's why they do what they do. Mm-hmm. And sort of, I always view my job to, one, have the first establishing vision of what we're trying to do, but also let my establishing vision be malleable enough to encompass the other artists and what they have to bring to the table, and also help tap into what their maximum potential is, and allowing them to feel comfortable to bring whatever wacky ideas they have. With this show, the Santaland Diaries, to be specific, it was extremely helpful to be able to be that way, because with this show, I had worked with pretty much every artist on this staff before. Max and I have done a number of shows together, so we already had a great rapport. So even though this was my first show at TheaterWorks, I came in feeling super, super comfortable. Our stage manager, Sarah Sparks, really funny thing that we noticed at our first day at rehearsal was, when we first met, I was an assistant director at TheaterWorks, and she was a production assistant for the stage manager back in, I think, 2012. Mm-hmm. And so it was fun to... She noted that we were like at the heads of the table where I was directing and she was the stage manager. And then Mia Kumamoto, Howard Ho, Joe Bowers, and Chris Fitzer, our design team, I had all worked with on other shows before. So it was like we walked in, we're like, oh yeah, we're working at for many of us, we were working at this company for the first time, and it was a larger company than we had worked with before. but it was the team, it was the crew. So
That's awesome. So since you're a director, we wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for students who want to go into directing in the future?
Well, I'd say, and I promise you Max is way more interesting than I am.
No, what's nice, I talk for 70 minutes every night, so this is actually really nice.
I was like prepared to be the straight man and let him just go bananas. Advice for students who want to be directors. I would say find a way to sort of balance a couple of things. What was helpful for me when I was just out of school and wanting to direct was I was able to assistant direct at large theaters, so the San Jose Rep, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and also Theater Works. I was assistant directing at those companies because it takes a while before you have built a resume and experience enough to be able to direct at those theaters. But also, in addition to assistant directing, find the smaller, local, perhaps community theaters to be the director at. And what I tried to do was I tried to observe the directors I was assisting. So assistant directing is a whole lot of learn by watching. You're not really gonna direct the show when you're the assistant director, especially if it's your first time working with a director. You're just gonna be sitting there, you're gonna be watching, you're gonna be taking their notes, you're gonna be helping actors run lines. But really what you should be doing is watching the strategies that the directors are using to communicate with designers, to communicate with actors, and how they sort of lead a room, how they can be a leader. And then when you go to a smaller theater where you do have the opportunity to be a director, try to pick and choose what works well from what you've watched with your personality and with your style, and then use the smaller theaters to develop your style so that way when the professional companies do call, you kind of come in with confidence and you come in with your own way of doing things.
Cool. So, Max, what was it like playing Crumpet the Elf?
It was a blast. I mean, so this is the first one-man show I've ever done, so it was a very daunting experience. But in a similar sense to Jeffrey, I knew a majority of the team when we were coming in. So as much as this is like the first show, I've done a Theater Works, the first one-man show. I came in going like, I trust this team a lot, so I feel like even if I'm going to get off path, like there's enough of us to correct it. And it was the most experimenting that I've ever done on stage because it was just us. I mean, like in any given show, if I don't know where to go, like my scene partner might make a cool cross and then I can do that, and now we've built a scene together. But this was like, if I don't know where to go, I'll stand there until someone tells me where to go, or I'll try something wacky and we'll see if it works. So in just kind of building the world of the show, there was a lot of really cool experimentation that I learned a ton from. Yeah.
What was the rehearsal process like? You talked about it a little bit, but in a one-man show, how would you say it's different from being on a stage with other people and interacting with other characters?
It's exhausting. That was one thing that I didn't take into consideration. I was like, yeah, so the rehearsal each day is about the same amount of rehearsal that you do, so it shouldn't be like that tiring. But it's like it's you the whole time. So usually you could let someone else be on stage for a while and take a little break. And so this was just a lot of constant work. But at the same time, it never really felt like it because it was just a constant give and take from Jeffrey, from Sarah, as we got designers in there to kind of bounce ideas off of. So it was really, really an organically built show. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to the question we asked Jeffrey earlier, do you have any advice for aspiring actors?
Yeah, I got two pieces. Yeah, two advices. The first is just to put in the work. Like not in terms of quantity so much, but on any project that you're on, like be on time, be attentive, be ready to help with extra things. Like I think, especially when I was starting out, my resume was pretty small, but a lot of the work I got at the time, I think was I'd like to think that I was, talented as well, but I think a lot of the work I got was because my reputation about companies was he's reliable, he works hard, he's always there, he'll give you what you need in terms of the whole team, and I think a reputation can, especially starting out, is a vitally important thing, especially in a community that talks. This is a small theater community. A lot of the companies are very in touch with each other, so that can take you a long way. And then I think just constantly keep learning is the other. It doesn't stop. Like even if you're on the top of your game, there's something to be learned from your other actors on stage, your director, your stage, the whole team. There's always something to learn. So like if you're not on stage and they're rehearsing a different scene, you don't need to get on your phone. You could watch that scene and probably learn a couple of great things from any show, Once you stop learning, it's not fun anymore.
Any takeaways from the show? What would you say were a specific hardship that you faced, maybe, or something that?
Well, with this show, this is the first show I've done in a while that, let me rephrase that. Up until this show, I had done maybe 2 straight years of plays that were either extremely heavy or about race, or both. And David Sedaris, and I think he would agree with this, at least of his early work, he's not super interested in having a message. He's sort of like, people are weird, the world is weird, and I'm going to make fun of it. And I've made a living doing that, so I'm going to keep doing it. And so we came into the Santaland Diaries, and it was like, the directive was not find the truth of the story necessarily. It wasn't like, what are we exploring about race relations or politics or whatever. It was just like, make people laugh as many times as possible for 70 minutes, which was both fun, but something that doesn't always happen. And the difficulty with it was, so there's a pattern of how this rehearsal room went that we like to tell people. and who says it in the room between me, Max, or Sarah, or whoever else sort of is interchangeable. It goes, person A, is this funny? Idea gets thrown out. Person B, is it funnier if? Throws idea out. C, is it too much if? And then D, that's only funny to us. That's sort of how these things went. So we went a long time in rehearsal before we had a preview audience, and it's kind of tough where with other shows you can sort of rely on, I don't care if people are laughing because we got to the truth of the story.
Because we're doing the Crucible.
Yeah, we're doing the Crucible. They're not supposed to laugh.
Yeah.
But this, it's like, if the only thing you're trying to do is to make the audience laugh, it's very easy to become insecure about what you're doing when you don't have those people in the room to be like, yeah, this is funny.
And near the end of the second week, we were changing some jokes, and we had to stop and go are we changing it just because we have stopped thinking it's funny, or are we changing it because it truly isn't funny? And that was a big challenge, I think, to overtake, is to really trust in what our initial couple of ideas were, and really trust that by the time we get this to an audience, this will work, even though in the designer runs and in the tech rehearsals, people are so busy they're not paying attention to these jokes. They're making sure the lights are in the right place and things like that. Yeah.
And I would keep us on I would spend 2 hours on one sentence. I'm sure this is funny and I don't find it funny right now, what are we doing wrong? But then we would get into a preview audience and there's a line about a child and a potato, and I didn't think about it. I did not think about this line at all. I read it and went on to the next line, and I think it gets the most consistent laugh.
It gets a laugh every night, yeah.
The audience explodes.
We never considered it, whereas we spent an hour and a half deciding when I pick up a cup. When is the funniest point to get this cup up? And that was a huge concern. Does not get as big a laugh as the potato.
Didn't even think about it. We're oh, okay.
Yeah.
David Sedaris can make them laugh without us.
Exactly.
That's what we learned.
Yeah. The big takeaway for me was on the page. This comes off as a very consistently cynical and kind of bitter look at certain things, and that is very funny to read and very it comes off the page very well. But watching somebody for 70 minutes just kind of beat you in the face with it was really not fun. So that was the big thing, was making it engaging, but staying, true to what is going on in the story, but still make it fun and vibrant for that amount of time, and that was extremely rewarding when we actually pulled it off.
You said early on a part of coming to like the Foothill, the Loman Theater specifically, was trying to appeal to the younger audience, like college students. A thing we hear a lot from our own theater community is that their audiences are mainly adults that live in the area. Would you agree with that, or would you say that your show appealed? It's a different show, obviously. It's funny, it's humorous. Do you think that appealed to college students more in what you've seen so far?
This show?
Yeah.
I haven't been to, he's been obviously at all the shows.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I can't speak to who's in the audience, but in terms of the subject matter, I think that's why I was hired to do the show, to direct the show. Mm-hmm. Most of our directors are much older than I am, and this is a play about an artist who is desperate for a job because he hasn't found a job as an artist. Mm-hmm. So he's like, I guess I just have to be a Macy's elf. Like, I guess that's just what I'm going to do to hold me over until I figure out this writing thing. Which I think all of us in school, it wasn't that long ago that I was in school, and I think that's what all of us were.
Yeah, Macy's elf is interchangeable with barista or, file clerk
relatable
or whatever.
content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I worked at like a rec center while I was writing my first courses. I was like checking out pool cues and ping pong paddles and stuff, and in between people, like I would be doing my job and like they'd be asking me to do my job. They'd be like, oh yeah, can I check out a ping pong whatever? And I'm like, I'm trying to write my play here. And they're like, you were paid to give me a ping pong. I'm like, you're right.
I remember memorizing Hamlet at the coffee shop I was working at in the back, and people would be like, "Can I get a latte?" I'm like, "I am learning high art, and you want me to dribble a heart on your get out of here?"
And I think that all the students here either know exactly what that is, or they're going to, unless they're. Who's a famous young person? I refuse.
Bieber.
Sure.
Khalid.
Khalid.
Yeah, Khalid.
I think even Khalid knows to a certain extent.
Khalid gets it.
Yeah.
Khalid gets it. That album.
Oh my God.
We texted each other about that. We're like, how? He's 17. How does he get this?
Like, how does Heartbreak feel 30 years old?
Yeah, so seeing the audience, I would say it's been a fair mix. I don't know if I've noticed like a drastic difference, but every night there are people that I either go, oh, you're quite young, or like, oh, geez, you might be too young for that. There was a couple nights with some kids, but they had a blast. They had like they had a good time. But yeah, so I don't know if I've noticed a vast difference, but I've certainly picked up on a little bit more variety.
And if not yet, I don't know when this podcast comes out.
Soon as possible.
Soon as possible, but like we have these Friday at 10 p.m. performances.
Yep.
We got these $10 tickets. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like go get drunk somewhere else. Come back.
If you're allowed.
If you're over the age of 21.
If you were of the age to get drunk, go get drunk, take a lift back to the Loman, hand $10 over to the box office, and sit in the front row.
Oh yeah.
The front row.
The front row. There is involvement if you're in the front.
Oh.
It's a
you might
blast.
just have to sit in the front row.
I'm saying.
So like just gather all your friends. The next 2 Fridays at 10 p.m. We got these $10 tickets because we want only all of you to come. We want 200 Foothill students to do it.
that may or may not be drunk, depending on if they're allowed.
The Santaland Diaries will be running at the Loman Theater through December 23rd, so be sure to check it out. To all of our listeners out there, thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for our next episode of Outcast.